Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TMA Sunday Night Live, sponsored by Sweets for All, quick, fast and friendly delivery by Lord Sereno King Morpheus at Sweets for All, also in association with Minx Tattoos, a female-run tattoo business. So get ordering there, get your name down for any models that they're looking for them. So Minx Tattoos, and like I say, big shout out as always to Sweets for All. Right, okay, so we're going for the big one today. Another legend. Shall we say, he won't say that, but he is a legend. Wheel off the certain clubs that he's managed. Wimbledon, he's been a coach there, Cardiff, assistant manager at West Brom, Sheffield Wednesday, he's been head development coach at Arsenal, and also, more importantly, between 2002 and 2004, Watford assistant manager. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Terry Burton. Good evening, sir.
Evening, Pidge. Evening. Thanks. Great intro as well. The countdown, loved it. Yeah,
it's epic, right? And also, we are joined by the podcast king. That is Sir Ray. So, Ray, evening, fella. Great podcast earlier, mate, as well. I'll get you to fish out many more podcasts you're coming up, mate. Because honestly, mate, they're actually brilliant. I saw them earlier. I saw the one at midday, mate. Excellent. Right. Okay, guys and girls, we've got your topics through. So, like I say, this is your podcast, your opinion. So we'll be getting those read out and answered by my good self, Sir Ray, and Mr. Burton as well. So, first and foremost, let's get straight on with, shall we say, Ask the Legend. So, Terry, if you don't mind, how did it all start? Coaching, playing. How did it really start for you back all those years ago?
Well, yeah, my memory's going a little bit, but I still remember. I guess like most players, most young footballers, started playing at school and district, and I went to Arsenal when I was 12 years old. I got invited in by someone that we probably will remember, maybe other people won't, but was the great Sir Billy Wright. He was manager at Arsenal at that time when I was 12, and I got invited in there. So, and I was there from that age until I then became an apprentice at Arsenal Football Club in 1967, and I was there till 1971-72 when we won the FA Youth Cup. But unfortunately, it didn't quite work for me, and I dropped out of the game briefly before I became, I suppose, my last footballing bit, probably player coach at Ilford. But I'd already, when I was sort of 19, 20, I started taking my coaching awards. And it always seemed as if that's what I was destined to. And another connection with Watford, great Bertie Mee. Bertie was manager at Arsenal. Bertie sort of said to me, he said, you were always a coach even when you were a player. And Bertie Mee actually gave me my first job at Arsenal as a coach. So I was still playing. I was playing non-league football. And Bertie, I went to London Coney, which was Arsenal's training ground back then, which is obviously Watford's now. And Bertie and his chief scout there, Gordon Clark, they invited me in to take some training, and it sort of started from there. Bertie offered me a job doing the evening training, taking the schoolboys, and I was sort of about 22 at the time. So I was sort of mixing playing non-league and coaching the schoolboys at Arsenal. So that was really the start of my coaching career. And I was fortunate enough to stay at Arsenal, for another sort of 10, 12 years really as coach, and worked with some great people there, really. Don Howe, Terry Neal, they were fantastic football people. I mean, Don Howe was a marvellous coach, and I guess I was really fortunate to go, and work with him at that time. So that's where it really started, Pidge, really, back then. And then sort of escalated when I left Arsenal. I was actually out of work for a period of time in terms of working for a football club. But Bobby Gould and Don Howe had gone to Wimbledon, and they invited me over, and I got a job there as a reserve team manager. which was the football combination back then. And I stayed there for 14 years, doing various jobs, from being youth team coach, reserve team coach, assistant manager, academy manager, and then became first team manager in the year 2000 when we went down out of the Premier League. And so that was sort of I had 2 years there as manager in the Championship. And then I got the sack in the summer of 2002, which then sort of brought me into, Ray Lewington invited me to go to Watford as his assistant. And I have to say that it's my best 2 years that I've enjoyed coaching in football, in my whole time in football. It's still, the 2 years at Watford still qualify as the best 2 years that I've had, most enjoyable years.
Brilliant.
And really, that was about the staff, fantastic staff. You know, you had Ray Lewington, who was a great coach, really top manager, but also fantastic man. You had Nigel Gibbs.
Yep.
You know, now there is a legend, a Watford legend, Nigel Gibbs. And we still all keep in touch now. You know, Nigel is obviously out in Belgium. Well, he was when I last spoke to him. He gets about a bit, the boy, so it could be anywhere. But the rest of the staff, you know, you had Terry Byrne, who was general manager at that time. Kevin Hitchcock was sort of goalkeeping coach. You had Alex Chamberlain, who was still playing but doing some coaching. People like Terry Ellis, who was the kit man. Wayne Farage, who was the masseur. You just went through them, and every single one of those people were terrific people, honest. You know, every day was a joy to go in, and also we trained at London Coney, which was I'd been my home for many, many years at Arsenal. So it really was the best 2 years I've ever had, enjoyable years in football.
No, fantastic, mate. Ray, do you want to add anything, mate? I've got a couple of the fans have been messaging in as well, but you shoot, mate, and then I'll put some of the fan questions up.
Hi, Terry.
Hi, Ray.
I was actually, as I said earlier, I was just a wee bit disappointed you never got the manager's job after Ray went, because I felt that you had the quality there. You were a really good coach and respected by a lot of people. Did you go to Cardiff?
I did. Yeah,
you went to Cardiff, didn't you? And that to me was a big blow. I just thought, you know, we've lost a really decent coach and he's gone to Cardiff. What's going on in our thinking? You know, we weren't obviously clued up on what was going on there.
Yeah, you know? And it was. I mean, the club didn't want me to go, but you know, it's like, Ray, in football and in life in general, you make decisions, and it had been. I mean, I'd had the first season was, you know, we got to the, that was the second year. We got to the semi-finals against Southampton, and had a really great group of professionals there. You know, Sean Dyche, Neil Cox, Neil Ardley, who are all managers themselves now. You know, but people like Lloyd Doyley, who was again a Watford sort of legend. You know, some great characters. Ida Helgeson. You know, every one of those group of players were really, really top professionals, and it was a joy. It really was a joy. But unfortunately, in life, sometimes we'd had our financial problems, as we obviously know, at Watford at that time, and you know, we'd had a bit of deferral of wages and things like that. And Sam Haman, who'd been my chairman at Wimbledon, he kept phoning me and knocking on the door, and you know, and for about 6 months really, he was after me to go to Cardiff, and eventually he wore me down. And you know, you make those decisions, and I went to Cardiff, and you can never look back and regret it. But what I do, for the first month, I can tell you this: I was on the phone to Ray Lewington every day. Please, can I come home? Can I come home? Can I come back? Because I went from fantastic facilities at London Coney. You know, they really, you know, particularly at that time, you know, they were top for a championship sort of club. They were really good. We're talking sort of 16 years ago, 17 years ago now, and they were excellent facilities. And I went to Cardiff, and it really was dog shit park. Excuse my language, but it really was. The place we had to train on and everything like that was awful. But the Cardiff club itself, there was some, again, people, Lenny Lawrence was there as the manager, and Sam Haman was my chairman, and the supporters were great. So, but for the first 2 months, really, I think if I could have, turned that decision around and gone home to Watford, I definitely would have done. But like most things, you get through it, and I can't look back with regret now. So 7 years there. My granddaughter was born in Wales, so that's sort of, you never regret anything like that. And we also did okay. We got into 2 playoffs, at Wembley, or one of the finals, and then playoffs at Wembley. We got to the FA Cup final in 2008 in my time at Cardiff. So you can never really look back and with regret. But yeah, I do say that period at Watford was without doubt my best time in football.
Well, Peter Remnant said, Terry, he says, summarise your time at Watford in 3 words only.
I love the crack.
There we go. Peter, there's your answer. We've also got Nathan Fox. It's not a direct question, but he says, this is our obviously current head coach at the moment. He says, is Isco providing the vibe Silva had with the players before his head was turned? Fixture list are running. This is obviously to do with the latest. You've obviously seen from afar the amount of head coaches that are sort of the head coach merry-go-round, which is well published. Yeah. But from what you've seen or heard, what have you made of Watford in the last few weeks? Obviously, taking into account what's been going on. We were on Sky recently. We also had the Man United game, or even during the season. What have you made of it?
Well, considering the turmoil, which the club seems to continuously put themselves through, with the changing of coaches, and listen, it's that game. We understand it. If it's a results business and you have to get the results or you're out. You have to win football matches or you're out. But it does seem as if the guy that's come in now has got a really good personality, which is massively important for a club because the players buy into it. If there's a manager with a good personality, I think the supporters buy into it because there's a better feel around the place, and what he's sitting third, I think it was, and it's still in a lot of the season left, but in a really good position to maybe just push on and get automatic qualification for the Premiership. So it's I just think that surprisingly for the turmoil, they've got some really good players, and they've kept some experienced players there. The Troy Deeneys of this world, who seems an excellent leader. And it'd be great to have in the dressing room people like that. It's so important, So I've got a lot of clubs now to catch up on every week. So a weekend's never normally enough to do so.
Yeah, no, exactly. Ray, you got anything, mate?
Yes. When you finished at Cardiff, what did you do after that?
From Cardiff, yeah. So we got into the playoffs in the 2010-11 season. So we got the playoffs. We got beat by Reading. We're a little bit unfortunate, really, because where both our goalkeepers got injured, and we had to go and loan a goalkeeper, and there was a little bit of we just didn't have that solid base that we'd had for last few seasons. So we didn't get into the playoff final. We got into the semis, got into the playoff, but we didn't get into the finals at Wembley. Dave Jones was manager. I was his assistant. Dave got the sack, and the rest of the staff went with him, really. So I had I went with Roy Hodgson at West Bromwich Albion. I was one of the coaches there for about 5-6 months. But Roy was always going to leave in the summer. His contract was up. He was always going to leave. I don't know if he knew he had the England job by then, but he was always going to leave. And Dave Jones got the job at Sheffield Wednesday, and Dave asked me to go to Sheffield Wednesday with him. So who were in Div 1 at the time. And so I did. I went with Dave at Sheffield Wednesday in about the February. The last game I had at West Bromwich Albion, we beat Chelsea in the Premier League. Drove up to Sheffield that evening and started on the Sunday. And again, it was like, oh, what have I done? You know, it was freezing cold. It was sort of February time, and I remember the first day's training. The training ground wasn't great, and it peed down. But again, a really good group of players. And I think we were about 6th or 7th when Dave and I went there, but we ended up knocking Sheffield United off second spot, and we got promotion into the Championship. That was at the end of that 2011-2012 season. I bought a house in Sheffield because I'd sold up in Cardiff. I bought a house in Sheffield. Family were there. All seemed to be going well, but Arsenal came back in. Got a call from Liam Brady, who was the academy manager at the time, and said, look, and I'd had a good relationship with Arsene Wenger. At Cardiff, I'd recommended Aaron Ramsey to them when Aaron was at Cardiff, and they'd loaned us a couple of players, so we had a good relationship. And Liam said, look, Arsene wants you to come and do the under-21 team and be head of coaching. So I had a big decision to make then, but it just tugged at my heartstrings. Again, it was sort of going back to a club that I'd supported as a boy. I'd been there since the age of 12 anyway. I'd spent a lot of my life there, so I ended up going back to Arsenal then and doing that role, which again I loved. We're just across the road, obviously, from the Watford training ground. So, and my sort of late afternoon walks, I would often walk around the training ground in between the little lane in between the two training grounds in Shenley, and reminisce about my good times there. So that's where I went. I went back to Arsenal for 2 years and did the role there, and would probably have stayed but Liam Brady was giving up his job as academy manager, and I loved working with Liam Brady, who was fantastic guy, great football man. Loved working with Arsene Wenger. But Liam went, and I didn't get the job as academy manager. Liam said, look, I'm going to recommend you for the job. I didn't get it. They gave it to a Dutch guy whose name eludes me now, and I think he went after about 2 years. But I made that decision then to leave, which was a real tough decision because it was Arsenal. But I just felt that I should have had that job, and they didn't give it to me, and I should have had it. And I was disappointed. So I left then, and I actually went to West Brom. West Brom offered me the job. I just see West Terry's view of the technical director and director of football position. I actually went into West Brom as technical director. So that's sort of that was in 2014. Again, some decisions you make in life. It was the brochure, actually. The brochure they showed me before I went in was nothing like the brochure. You know, I booked that hotel thinking it was a 5-star hotel, and it turned out that it wasn't quite like that. You know, it was a club in a bit of turmoil, and great experience though, fantastic experience, which taught me a lot. Really taught me a lot about the other side of the game. I'd always been a coach, but it did taught me a lot about the boardroom and chairman and things like that.
Well, the thing is as well, didn't you return to Arsenal as a youth team coach in the late 70s as well? And you're actually credited, apparently, with bringing through a certain defender. It apparently wasn't too bad in the name Tony Adams, apparently. So, and he was going to try and bring you to Portsmouth, wasn't he, when he was manager?
He was, yeah. That was, again, I nearly went to Portsmouth with Tony. Yeah, well, that was part of my 10, 12 years at Arsenal, really. From 75 was when I went in as a schoolboy coach and left in in '87, yeah. So that was. But Tony was. Yeah, we had some great. They talk about the Man United's team of. Their group of young players that come through, but we had some fantastic players there at Arsenal come through, from Tony Adams, Martin Keown, Michael Thomas, Paul Merson, David Rocastle. That's just really a pick of a handful of the players during that time who came through. But there was like many more that came through during that period. So it was a great time to be at Arsenal, and you never appreciate those things while they're happening. That's a message to everybody is enjoy your life, because it's you always think tomorrow something else is going to, but you enjoy today, because it's it soon sort of passes you by, and you look back and you go, wow, that was a great time. I wish I'd enjoyed it more. But it's life, and you learn as you go along. So I've had some really good times in football. I hope to still have some good times more. I'm at Southampton. I've been at Southampton for the last 4.5 years, doing mainly in recruitment, doing mainly academy recruitment. I was head of academy recruitment, but I actually live in Chesterfield. When I moved to Sheffield, my family moved with me as well. My son and his then wife and my grandchildren. He's since divorced, and he's married a girl in Chesterfield, so that's where we live. So that's where home is now. That's where the family are. That's where my hat is. So so we live there. But the job in Southampton, it's a bit of a journey, really. So it was taking its toll. So I've still worked for them for the last 18 months as a consultant and in talent ID recruitment, and really, really good club, nice people.
Wow,
brilliant. Yeah, go on, Ray. Sorry, mate. I was hogging the limelight here, mate. Well, have you got anything else?
That's fantastic, Terry. You've certainly had a mixed career, and a very interesting one, I may add. Have you ever thought of writing a book?
Yeah, sort of. But it's I mean, some people have asked me that, about doing a book, or even the sort of, one book about the experiences, because I've worked for some which were deemed to be chairmen who have been characters. Let me just say that. So Sam Hammam was a great character. I mean, really challenging. Unfortunately, I was assistant manager for a lot of the time that Sam was there, so I didn't have to burden everything, but he was a real character. We had Peter Risdale at Cardiff. Again, another character, and the only chairman I've ever had a sort of fight with. But that's part of that might have to wait for the book. Milan Mandaric at Sheffield Wednesday, who again you might not remember, but he was at Portsmouth and Sheffield Wednesday, and again, fantastic. I liked them, and really that's the thing. I liked all those people. I liked. They were real personalities, strong characters. You could have your say with them, and then not take umbrage with it. And I also worked with Jeremy Peace at West Bromwich Albion, who was a different character from those, but again a real strong football person. So there is something in there to write about with all those people and the managers. I've worked with Ray Lewington, Roy Hodgson, Arsene Wenger, Lenny Lawrence, David Jones, George Graham, Bobby Gould, Terry Neal. From all of them, you hope that you learn something along the way.
I mean, especially working with someone like Don Howe. I mean, ex-England coach as well. I mean, what a legend he was. I mean, there must have been a few things that he rubbed off on you. Certainly, with starting with him.
I was so lucky, really, really lucky that my career, put me in the path of Don. Really, I don't think I'd have ever has been quite the coach I was if it hadn't been for Don Howe. I used to idolize. I was like 28, 29, and I was working as his assistant. balls and bibs really, because I just used to carry him for Don. Don did the work, and I just picked the balls and bibs up at the end of it. But you learn so much from him. I could join then. I was young enough to join in the sessions quite a lot. But a great coach, and I actually ended up having a sort of Birmingham accent at the time, and I spent one summer trying to. Don had this great whistle. He could whistle, and I could never whistle. And I spent one summer trying to get my knuckles were raw, trying to learn how to whistle like Don Howe. It was just, but he had that influence, and he had a great football brain, but he could motivate players. He could slap them on the back, build them up, knock them down, but a really great football mind. Fantastic.
Right, Kevin Lewell said, Terry, how would you play Troy, main striker or provider, after his performance at Stoke?
After his performance where, sorry?
At Stoke on Friday night.
Yeah, I didn't actually see it. I didn't actually see it, but what I think you get with a Troy Deeney is, with strikers, again, during their early career, they do a lot of the running, a lot of the work up front. They get down the sides, they cause defenders problems. But as they get more experience, they become cleverer, and they very often do drop into be that more of a link up and assists and see the movements a little bit quicker. So I haven't seen too much of Troy recently, so it's difficult for me to answer that particular question. But the bits I do know about him, that I'm pleased that he's a Watford player.
Brilliant. Right, we've got Peter Remnant's got a few other things. Well, Ray, I'll get you to shout this out as well, mate. The Matej Vidra Andre Gray debate. There has been a bit of speculation, obviously, coming up, and we obviously pre-warned Terry about this before we went live as well, that there's a bit of rumour going around that Vidra could be possibly coming back. I've said it as well on the forum that I think it'd be a perfect time if they wanted to do a straight swap with him and Gray. It suits him. He's an ex-Burnley. It probably could be a right move for him. Certainly be the right move for Vidra. Obviously get Terry's view on it as well. But Ray, what do you reckon, mate? Straight swap or bring in Vidra for extra cover up front?
I'd bring him straight away. I wouldn't even hesitate. Straight swap. Forget about the money side of it for Gray. I'd do the swap. They want something like 7 million for him. I wouldn't hesitate in swapping him now. I'd go for it. I'll deal with it. That way solves Burnley's problem as well, because they want a replacement striker. If you're going back to what he knows, and we'll be getting a guy who knows the whole thing, London Coney, and the way we work. And I think it'd be ideal for him because he's mature as a player, he's a better player for his experiences, and he would suit Watford down to the ground.
Yeah, definitely. Terry, what do you reckon? From what you've seen, you've had a good look at. You've seen Vidra, you've seen possibly a bit of Gray as well. Do you think a straight swap would probably suit both parties, or do you think one rather than the other would probably suit more Watford's way in keeping them popped up with strikers?
I guess it makes sense because striker. It depends on the valuation that clubs put on players. That is more times than not is where it gets stuck. Transfers, that valuation that one club will say, well, look, we value him at 10 million. The other club will say, well, we don't. We think it's a fair swap, and that's where that delay happens. But I think if there's legs in the rumour, and the players and their agents are both willing to actually make the move, and the two clubs are not that far apart on transfer fees and valuation, then it might make sense. One player has been sort of bit part player in the Premier League who you'd be getting, so you're hoping again that coming back to there and getting more game time would be something that might appeal to him. So I can see that being a possibility.
Yeah. Also, if you can get Ward Prowse for us, apparently there's a drink in it for you. So
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure it will happen. I think it would have to be more than one drink to make it happen. But yeah, Ward-Prowse is one of those players, you know, that when you look at, probably never really catches the eye or hasn't caught the eye, but again, he's learnt his trade. He's now, I think, one of the best central midfield players, you know, outside of that top sort of 2 or 3, 4 clubs, you know, that probably in the Premier League. So consistent, week in, week out, just does the job. And he's how many goals does he create and score from set plays, which is another added bonus to the fact that he's a very, very good footballer. Yeah, I don't think you're getting him. You know, no matter how many bottles of and what it is. And by the way, I'm teetotal as well, so it's sort of.
We're giving you a supply of Tetleys. Year supply of Tetleys.
Now you're talking. Now the tea. Yeah, now tea could sway it.
None of this Iceland or Morrison stuff. It's proper Tetleys. Honestly, if Ray says he's giving you Tetleys.
Now I'm afraid that's where I am.
Right. We'll be going very shortly. Obviously, Ray will get the last word. Just Terry, thank you ever so much. Been absolute honour and a privilege to have you on. Thank you very much.
Good to see you guys, and good luck. Keep it going.
Yeah, please stay safe. Love to the family as well, Terry. All the best, mate.
All the best, Terry.
Thank you.
All the best. Cheers. Get that book out.
Yeah, definitely. So once again, Terry, thank you ever so much. Absolute legend, coaching legend as well, especially ex-Wimbledon and many, many others. So thank you very much. Right, Ray, last word for you, mate, just before we go. But podcast, fantastic one at midday today, mate. Like I said already, but what have you got in store for us coming up in the week? Anything to tickle our fancy, shall we say?
I don't know about tickling your fancy. I didn't think we're that
you know
close.
You want to, mate.
Love it. Well, obviously Tuesday we got the game against Millwall, and I'll be doing a half-time preview about the first half and how it went, and then obviously we're joining up with you afterwards to do the verdict, which will be slightly earlier as it's 7 o'clock kickoff that day, and then Wednesday I'll be doing a podcast between 7 and 8 just to find out how everybody is and how they're getting on. That's Wednesday night. And then on when is it? Sunday I'll be back doing the 12 to 2 Surrey's Cook Report.
Brilliant, mate. Well, thank you very much as ever. Everyone, thank you ever so much for tuning in. You've been absolutely amazing crowd as ever. We will see you back on Friday. We may have a podcast tomorrow, but I will let you guys and girls know probably later tonight. Yeah, the podcast king, that is Sir Ray. Absolutely amazing as ever, mate. Thank you very much. But as we go, we have to depart now. But as always, you've been beautiful. We've been TMA. It's good night from Sir Ray.
And it's good night from the Pidge.
See you later, guys and girls.